Thank you for downloading the audio portion of the Everett Lee Show. Before we get on to the guest today that's on the program, there's a few things I want to mention that will help support the Everett Lee Show, and of course it will help Everett Lee out, and then you can enjoy this audio portion of the Everett Lee Show. If you're looking to start a podcast and already have a podcast and you're looking for an affordable podcasting hosting site, Podbean's your number one choice. Podbean offers statistics with in-depth analytics to manage your podcast needs. Use the promo code podbeam.com/pbsignup and get a free month off. That's podbeam.com/pbsignup to get a free month off and see why 1,500 episodes have been shared all over the world in the past 11 years with over 3,000 subscribers that have chose Podbeam as their number one hosting site. And if you're looking to get into advertising, Podbeam advertising, you'll get $100 off advertising when you sign up as a sponsorship over on podbeam.com/pro/pbsignup. That's podbeam.com/pro/pbsignup. Since 1995, highspots.com has grown to be the company it is by serving the wrestling fans throughout the world with a great selection of merchandise. Highspots.com has everything a wrestling fan could want, including the latest WWE and TNA releases, classic wrestling merchandise, and their Highspots.com exclusive releases. Highspots.com is the leading online retailer for professional wrestling and mixed martial arts, offering autographs, figures, DVDs, apparel, wrestling gear, and even wrestling rings. Their largest clients include WWE, Impact Wrestling, ROH, and AEW. Click on the High Spots logo on the Everett Lee Show page over on podcasty.net to order. Whether you are a wrestling fan, pro wrestler, or promoter, you can find what you're looking for at highspots.com.
Podcast City Network. You're listening to the Everett Lee Show.
Welcome to the Everett Lee Show. I'm the Everett Lee. Today on the program, I have a big guest. Today, we are going to throw it up and throw it down for my guest. Hey, as you can hear right there, I want to welcome to the program to the Everett Lee Show. You may have seen him on Future Great Wrestling FGW Shockwave, which you can catch every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. Please welcome to the program none other than Big John Murray. How you doing, Big John?
What's up, Everett? How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. I am good. Before we started rolling, man, we're sitting there talking, and I mentioned that, have you ever been mistaken for Kevin Nash before? And you said you've been mistaken there before, and you've met Kevin Nash before in the past.
Obviously, I've been mistaken by somebody who's never met Kevin, because he's even bigger than I am. But yeah, he's a big boy. But yes, I met him a couple of times. Once in, I think it was upstate New York, probably 20 years ago, 15 years ago, and then last year at the Heroes and Legends show in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And he remembered me right off the bat. We caught up, we were talking, and great guy, absolutely amazing guy. But I get it once in a while. They're like, "Oh my God, you're like Kevin Nash," blah blah blah. And Sean and I were wrestling in Indiana one time, and these guys asked us to sign their flyer, their banner. We signed it, and the guy looks at me, he goes, "Thanks, Kevin." And I was like, "You got to be kidding me!"
Wow, but that's cool, man. Because I mean, Kevin Nash, everything he did in wrestling. I mean, being one of the founding members of the NWO, and just the Wolfpack, NWO Wolfpack, and then the rivalries he had, and just his career along the way there. And even back before WCW, when he was Big Daddy Cool Diesel, man, back in the late mid-90s, excuse me. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite humbling to be even classed. Obviously, I'm not the same caliber of wrestler. He was a founding father of a lot of things, and he was instrumental with the development of the WCW. And to even be called something like that, or say that I look like him, is quite humbling, because he's a pioneer, and I love his work. And as a matter of fact, that's what I model my gimmick after. I'm the enforcer of the 5 Most Wanted, just like he was with the Wolfpack and the NWO, and we do our thing, and I've modeled a lot of my mannerisms and character after him, so it's really quite humbling that people would think that.
Yeah, that's amazing what I've seen you do on FGW, man. Big John comes out to the ring. Something's going to happen, man. Something's going to happen. He's going to make sure whoever he's out there with, you're going to make sure that they win if you have to get involved. And when you get involved, that's the last thing the other person in the ring wants to happen to them, man.
Absolutely. You know what? It's choke slams, it's power bombs, it's jackknife power bombs, it's whatever seems to fit at the moment, and they know that it's coming. You know what I mean? And when I get in the ring, I want to be the last thing that they see, except for the lights. So.
All right, yeah, that's amazing, man. I've enjoyed everything I've seen when you come out there in FGW and stuff, coming out with the 5 Most Wanted, coming out there with Sean Casey, David J, and just the 5 Most Wanted. I had Cody Hawk on a while back ago, and I didn't get to touch on too much of the 5 Most Wanted because we talked a lot about his matches and stuff. But the 5 Most Wanted, man, that's not a gimmick. It's for real. It's the real deal.
Or simply put, the 5 Most Wanted is who we are. You have, in the wrestling business, you have people that go out there and they put on a gimmick, and when they leave the ring, they become somebody else. What we bring to the ring is who we are. Each one of us individually brings something separate to the table, whether it's David J., who is an existing and a real agent in Hollywood. You have Sean, who's a 2-time Playgirl centerfold model, Pretty Boy. You got Cody, who is an award-winning trainer. He got the CAC Trainer Award last year, the one of 3 that's ever been given. You got myself, who comes from the rock and roll business, who handles personal security for not only Bret Michaels, but many entertainers and artists and movie personnel. We've all done movies together. And you got Shauna Reed, who is Psycho Shauna Reed. I mean, she is who she is. She's got split personalities. She's one day you're good, one day you're bad. No matter what, she's still my sister. I love her to death. I've never had a problem with her, but I've seen her snap on some people, and that's who she is, And most of the times, it's a legitimate reaction to something. She's not afraid to hold back, and I think that's why the WWE has used her so much, because she's real, she's not vulnerable, and she has listened and learned and done everything that they ask, and she's become quite a persona, not only at WWE, but FGW and everything else. So we're not trying to be something we're not.
Yeah, that's what I love about the 5 Most Wanted. You're real. It's like you said, no gimmick. And being in the 5 Most Wanted, and for yourself, your story getting into professional wrestling, that started out in the late 90s there, because you trained with Les Thatcher, the same person that trained Cody Hawk, and then Cody Hawk went on to train so many there. When you first met Les Thatcher, how was that, and how was it getting into wrestling for the first time there?
It was weird, because what happened was I was brought in by a guy here in Cincinnati who was a local promoter of a show. There's a venue here called Annie's. It's a live music venue. And I was working security for the club. And when he met me, the very first night he met me, I busted up a fight. Some guy was going after him, and I busted up a fight, put a guy out, and he was like, whoa, 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 So I started working there. They were like, we need somebody like this. And he got this idea. He had been very well versed in the professional wrestling business and the promoter business, and I think he saw not only some potential, but I think he saw dollar signs as a manager or an agent. And he got me involved, took me to the training facility where Les and everybody was training. Immediately, I felt this urge to want to do it. I was like, okay. Unfortunately, at that time, I was doing things, I didn't understand psychology wrestling and storytelling and the psychology of a persona and a gimmick. So I was 6'8", 300 pounds, doing hurricanratas, doing moonsaults, doing superplexes off the top rope with Cody. Cody was the only one that I let do it. And people like Chris Jericho and Chris Benoit, God rest his soul, and Dean Malenko, and people would come in and they would train because Les was a an actual legitimate training facility.
Right.
And at that time, they were like, "What are you doing?" They're like, "You're 6'8". You should never leave your feet." You know. So I continued to do this dumb stuff, and inevitably, I got my neck broken. And what I did, it wasn't major. The Cody's was a major break. Mine was more of like compression fracture.
Okay.
Did a little bit of nerve damage, but nothing that would ever paralyze me or anything. And it took about 6 to 8 weeks to fully recover. I'm sorry, 6 to 8 months. 6 to 8 months to fully recover.
Okay.
When I did come back, I was gun shy. I didn't want to get in the ring. I didn't want to do anything. I was scared. And luckily, knock on wood, music came about, and I wound up working in the music business. I went to Cody, I went to Sean, I went to Jackson Breeze, all of which are still obviously involved with the FGW. I never went to Les. I went to all of my peers.
Right.
And I said, look, this is an opportunity. What should I do? And I think it was Jackson Breeze and Cody that said, look, wrestling will always be here. Always. You can always come back to it. But you only get this kind of an opportunity once in a lifetime. So if you don't take it, we're going to beat your ass. and I took it, made a full career out of it. And 20-something years later, I came back, and with welcome arms, or open arms, they welcomed me back and said, okay, you ready to chokeslam and power bomb some people through tables? And there it was. It came back immediately.
That's amazing there. That's amazing. During that time you were gone, when you had that opportunity there, like you mentioned with the music business there, you were able to actually go across the country, and like you mentioned at the opening of the program here, you've got to work with a lot of bands.
Absolutely.
Lot of well-known bands. Ratt, Poison. You have a really good relationship there with Bret Michaels. You pretty much handled personal security for these events, correct?
Well, yeah. Not only the events, but I handled it for them individually. With Kid Rock, I was his personal assistant. I handled all of his wardrobe. I handled all of his jewelry. Handled all of his day-to-day operations. As far as he had his own independent security guy. His name was Little Bear. And then there was myself, who handled all of his wardrobe, all of his kind of personal effects.
Right.
And making sure that everything was to par, and which was great. With Bret, with Ratt, with Saliva, with all these other bands, I was strictly security. And with a few of them, I became like the fifth Beatle, and the rock and roll lifestyle took over. And I had to reel myself back in 2010, but that's life. It could have been wrestling, it could have been music, it could have been anything, but I got to live the rock star life without having to go on stage and perform.
That is amazing, man. And you got to see these people, these talented musicians and artists. You actually got to see a different side of them, which the public and the cameras don't get to see, and you kind of got to develop relationships
Absolutely.
with them out of the public eye, which I think is great, man, because you built a really good relationship with these people.
Yeah, it's really weird, because if you would have talked to me 40 years ago, 30 years ago, and said, hey, you're going to be working with some of the world's greatest entertainers, and you're going to be the right-hand man, and they're going to become some of your best friends in life, I would have smacked the hell out of you. But I would have been like, what are you talking about? But sure enough, it happened. And I'm one of those people that I guess, for lack of better terms, the way to say it is, when something happens, I try to make the best of it and excel in it.
Yeah.
And I'm a handshaker. I go out and meet everyone. I don't care if they've got a bad reputation or not. I go out, shake their hand. Hey, I'm John. It's a pleasure to meet you. If we're going to be working together for the next 6 months or a year, whether it's a co-headlining tour or whether it's just at a festival, and there's multiple acts, I go out and meet people, shake their hand. Hey, how you doing? It's a pleasure to meet you. Because you never know who you're going to meet in this business. It's going to be your next boss, or two, your next influence.
Right.
Same as wrestling. I mean, when we're in wrestling in the dressing rooms, in the locker rooms, I go around. I don't care if they've been in the WWE 20 years or if they're just brand new last week. Shake their hand. Hey, how you doing? I'm John. It's a pleasure. But a lot of them know me from the TV show, or now they know me from wrestling with Sean and Cody and Shauna and David. But it's the best way that I can say it is you never know who you're meeting, and you never know how they're going to impact your life. So,
yeah, I definitely agree with you right there, because you never know. A few years ago, Jimmy Hart, he opened up a place here in Daytona Beach, and me and my friends, we went over there and we first met Jimmy. So we met him and talked with him there, and then we started coming back to him and just talking with him, and he got to know us over time there. And the relationship ended up being where he got to know me and my wife. At the time when my wife was pregnant with our daughter, we'd go in there and watch pay-per-views, watch wrestling, and he would always ask how she's doing, ask how I'm doing, and even after my daughter was born, I'd come in there, it's like, hey, Jimmy, he'd come over, we'd shake hands, and he's like, hey, baby, how you doing? How's that little girl of yours doing? I said, she's big. And I developed that relationship with him, which I thought was really great there. And he was here in Daytona for about 2-3 years, and I got to know him, and sitting next to him watching wrestling and him talking about things and pointing things out that I wouldn't have known. And just,
absolutely.
Yeah, it was amazing.
That's what I mean about the psychology of wrestling. And, when you're new, or when you think you know what's going on, the script gets flipped and you don't know a damn thing. You don't know anything. And I was lucky enough throughout my music career to meet some very, very... It's weird because I started training with Les and Cody and everyone in the mid-'90s. Hurt my neck, got out of wrestling thinking, okay, I'm going to make a career out of music and I'm not going to have to deal with wrestling anymore. Then I started hanging out with wrestlers by going in the back door. I didn't have to go in the ring. I started hanging out with them because of the music. So I got to meet some wonderful people and get to know them very well. Randy Savage, Bubba Ray Dudley, Edge. Some of the biggest names in wrestling became some friends of mine. And, wrestling was all Magnum TA. He was a great inspiration to me because we became really good friends, and he knew how bad I wanted to wrestle again. So last year when we were doing Heroes and Legends, ironically, Magnum was there. So I got to come to him not as an equal or a peer, but in his world. And we got to experience that together. I love Terry to death. I would do anything for him, and I know he would me. And it was just very cool to have him come to a music show, and he's in my world, and now I'm sharing his world. Never on his level, but always in the same building.
That's amazing, man. Magnum TA, man. He talk about a career there, man. Wow, that
close. He was about ready to take over the world, and unfortunately, life happened, and he's still an amazing person. I love him to death, and he's still a big part of wrestling. And I think if people go back and watch some of his matches with various people, they could learn so much because he had it. He had the psychology, he had the character, he had everything. And there's another guy that his gimmick was who he was. That was the reality of who he was, and he never tried to change anything. And I think that's why Tessa is so successful, because she's not trying to be anything that she's not. And Terry's in her corner, and I'm sure that he's teaching her a lot of the psychology.
Yeah. That right there. That's a good example right there, John. Tessa, she has the best of both worlds there because of Magnum TA and her dad. I mean, look at her career, man. I mean, she's had a hell of a career there, especially in Impact, man. It's amazing what she's already accomplished, and at her age.
When I saw her take the belt, it was kind of surreal because like I told you, I've known Terry for quite a long time, Magnum, for quite a long time, and I saw Tessa as a little girl. You know what I mean? And when I look at TV and I come back into the wrestling world and people are telling me, oh, Tessa Blanchard, I'm like, there's no way. And she's on top of the world. And I was loving it. I was like, hell yes. I hate to say that I'm a mark of hers, but I am. I mean, the fact that I know her doesn't make me any less of a mark.
Right.
So granted, it's not like we would sit and talk. We're not best friends or anything like that. But I saw her when she was growing up a couple of times, and it was really, really cool to see her excel and follow in her father and Magnum's footsteps. So it was really cool to see her be a part of this business.
Yeah, that's amazing right there. I loved it when she was in the Mae Young Classic because she did so well. And I said to myself, I said, WWE, they're kicking themselves in the butt for not signing her because look what the heck she's done, man.
Well, the problem is I think WWE, I'm not going to say they're on their way out, but their business portfolio is not what it used to be. I don't know what happened. I really have no idea. But and thank God for places like AEW,
yes,
ET, and all these other things to give you an option, if you will,
yes,
to watch other, whether it's TNA, which is a platform to go to the WWE or NXT or whatever. There is some really good talent there that they're passing up and letting get away to go to AEW and stuff like that. And I just don't know what I mean, the only way that I think the WWE is ever going to be back on top or not equal with the others is if they go back to the War Days. You know what I mean? That was the best time for the WWE, was the Sunday Shotgun Sundays and Monday Night Raw and War and it was like the new generation, the DX era and all that. Nothing could take its place.
Attitude Era, man. Attitude Era. I was a teenager.
Yeah, that's it. The Attitude Era.
Yeah, I was a teenager during those days. Late 90s, I was a senior in high school, and I graduated around 98, and I started seeing the beginning of the Attitude Era. There was a long time where I didn't watch wrestling from, I think, 90 till about 97. 7 years I didn't watch wrestling. Here and there I kept up with it from friends saying, hey, this happened, that happened. When I jump back into it, I see all this new stuff, and I'm saying to myself, I was like, I see this guy come out named Stone Cold Steve Austin. I'm like, who is this guy? And my dad, old Tennessee redneck, he loved him because he's like, hell yeah, he raises hell and drink beer, and he's like, any guy does that, that's a guy I love.
Absolutely. Well, unfortunately, the problem is I think, just like in any other business that's successful, everybody dips their hand in the pocket or the well, and they all have a say in something. I mean, if you watch Raw now, it's become an infomercial for something else. I mean, every 2 minutes it's a commercial for Subway or GoDaddy or whatever. I'm like, everybody has dipped their hand in there so much because they've gotten so much corporate sponsorship that they don't even have a say in their own business anymore. And other people are controlling the content. And it's like, they got a little bit raw and risque and everything, but that's what was selling. And when they were on top, they stopped. And I don't understand it. I don't. On the other hand, I'm not getting paid to understand it. So, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Last night I was sitting there watching AEW. I was sitting right here on my computer. I got dual monitors. One monitor here, I was watching AEW, and the other one I was sitting there watching NXT. I'm just going back and forth, just watching it. I felt like the Monday Night Wars, man, back growing up.
Yes.
It was great.
The funny thing is there's nothing that goes back to, I don't think will ever come. Although I did see something that Coronet and everybody's part of, or was, the Power. God, what was it? NWA.
Yeah, NWA Power. Yes.
Power.
Yes.
That almost reminded me of going back to the Georgia Championship, Gordon Soley days.
Yeah.
I was like, there's no intro music. You just show up. You can hear the crowd or in the bleachers. That was exciting to me. So I don't know why that hasn't taken off even more, but it's those days that are missing. And with independent wrestling today, as successful as it is, and as big as it is, I mean, independent wrestling's got quite a hell of a following. You know what I mean? It's become more successful today than it's ever been. And I think this younger generation, I think they have the power to put it back on a platform of the Attitude Era and everything in the future. But I think a few people at the top level have to be a little bit more giving as well and say, hey, you know what are your ideas? Because the problem is just like any other business, experience creates cockiness and egotism.
Right.
And everybody at the top thinks they know what works. What they don't know is what's happening in the real world, what we think would work. I say we because I'm on the independent level, but I know what's working on the independent level, and I think if they took it up a notch, some like AEW did.
Yeah.
You know, AEW has done phenomenal, and I wish them all the success in the world, because they're not trying to be so big that they can't control it anymore. They're just doing what they do, and they're letting the people decide.
Yeah, they're having fun, and yeah. I'm more familiar with a lot of that talent. And some of the talent I wasn't really familiar with until I seen them on AEW. And when I seen this talent that I was familiar with on the independent wrestling scene, I'm like, wow, they got this guy. That's amazing. And you got this guy. And I'm excited that Brian Cage is now over there, man. Damn, man.
I love it. I absolutely love that.
I do too, man.
I was hoping you would say that, because he's going to do phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
And Taz as his mouthpiece.
I know. It's really cool.
You know what'd be awesome? See Taz actually get physically involved and put the Taz mission on someone.
I think it'll happen.
It will.
I don't think Taz is done yet. I really don't. People have always said that, in the independent scene, and when you're training, it's like, oh, I want to be on Raw. Everybody wants that brass ring.
Yeah.
Honestly, let's be realistic. At our age, I don't think there's any $1 million contracts coming down the pipeway, the pipe. But I would still like to be on a roster as a house guy or whatever with AEW. And I've known Chris Jericho through Poison for quite a while. I know Sean's worked with him. I think we still got a few good years in us, and I think we, myself, Sean, Cody, and definitely Shauna, I think we could put some asses in seats, and I think we have the experience, me with music, Sean with his entertainment career, Cody with everything that he's done, Shauna with her WWE experience and what she's been doing. I think we could, one, put some asses in the seats out of the independent level that haven't been there yet, and two, we have a gimmick that is going to last at least a couple of years. I mean, I like to tell people, they're like, "What's the 5 most wanted?" I said, "We're modern day DX." People love to hate us.
Yeah.
We are the most dangerous group in professional wrestling, because when one falls, there's 4 more behind them.
Exactly. Couldn't agree any more with you right there. Here, picture, since you said AEW, let me throw a picture in your head. 5 Most Wanted versus the Inner Circle.
I love it. Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen.
Oh, God. Yeah.
I think some people would be very happy with that.
I can see you squaring off against Jake Hager.
Yep, I can do that without a doubt. It's there's a lot of things that, the problem is on the independent level, we have the power to control our gimmicks and who we are. 1 week we're this guy, 1 week we're that guy, 1 week whatever, and we're looking for that one thing that works. With the 5 Most Wanted, we already have something that works, and if they would give us the power to just come in and be the 5 Most Wanted and not try to change our gimmick, I think they'd be very happy, even if it's for a year or 2 years. I'm not looking to get rich. I make my money in music.
Yeah. It's like, not to throw WWE back into it, like, for example, AJ Styles. Yeah. AJ wrestled all over the world, and he wanted to end the rest of his career there, have the rest of his career there in WWE, right. And where he could at least say, hey, I did a WrestleMania and I did WWE. And 5 Most Wanted, going to AEW, like a company like that'd be great, because like you said, if you do a couple years, it's like, hey, I did AEW.
Exactly. And to be legit, anybody can go out there and say, oh, I'm a professional. I'll give you a story. A guy named, about 20, mid-90s, I was young and drinking and partying and having fun and training, and I would go out to clubs and I would tell everybody, oh, they're like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a professional wrestler. Well, there was a guy who was an experienced wrestler at the time. The only man in my life that legitimately scared the hell out of me. His name is Bull Payne. And Bull, we were wrestling up in Lima, Ohio. He was riding in my van, and we were going back to Cincinnati. Or actually, I take that back. We were going back at this time. And I said, I'm ready. I want to do this, and I want to do that, and I want to do this. He goes, pull the van over. And I was like, what? He goes, stop the damn van now. He goes, if I hear you bitching, saying you're a professional wrestler one more time, he goes, call a match right now. And I was like, I couldn't. And he goes, shut your mouth, learn, and when you're ready, I'll tell you. And I was like, wow. So, I mean, like I said, on the independent level, everybody thinks they know what works. Everybody, this will work, and this will work, and this will work. Well, the 5 Most Wanted has been successful for 14 years. From the inception of it to now, it's not broken up. No matter where you go, there's always someone from the 5 Most Wanted, and they say that they're 5 Most Wanted. So I think, you give us 1, 2, 3 years, probably what's left of our career, to go out there, show people what we got, and give them everybody wants to end their career on a high note.
Yes.
Everybody to, you want to play your last football game, or you want to play, whether it's the first game, middle season, or the last, like every game has to be played like it's your last game. And if we got a chance to go to like an AEW or something like that, I guarantee you for 1, 2, 3 years, we would give every match like it was our last match, and we would make the people, or give the people what they want, and I think the company would benefit from it. But we'll see if it's in the cards. It's one of those things you hope for, but I'm not going to put all my eggs in one basket.
Exactly. I love that. That would be awesome. That would. I don't want to mark out and say like, oh my God, I probably would if I was sitting there watching TV.
I would. I mean, Sean has been in the 10, 20, 30,000 seat arenas. Cody has. Shauna has now. I have been in front of 50, 60, 70,000 people with Poison and Ratt and all these other bands. So every one of us are not new to walking through that curtain. Every night I'd come out and I'd introduce Poison and do the intro. And there were times when I first started that I'd look out and I'd see 30,000 people, and I'm like, you couldn't get a penny at my ass with a jackhammer. I was like, oh my God, that's a lot of people.
God.
But, we've already got that past us, so I think we've got a little bit more of an advantage than other people.
Yeah. Seeing like every night, traveling with these bands, especially like Poison,
right?
Going to these town to town and seeing these large crowds, man, it's amazing, ain't it? And even today, after all these years, people still love Poison. Do you think it's also gotten to the point where parents grew up listening to Poison and they've brought their kids and exposed to it?
Without a doubt. I mean, we're into the 4th generation of Poison fans, and when you're coming up on 40, almost 35 years, about 35 years of Poison existing, and we still look out in the crowd and we see kids that are 13, 14, 15, into their mid-20s. They continue to pass the music along, and I think there's a reason for that. There's bands out there that last 1 year, 1 album, 2 albums maybe. Motley, Poison, Def Leppard, Joan Jett, we were just getting ready to go out and do the stadium tour where 38 stadiums were sold out. Over 2 million tickets were sold. And I think the reason behind that is because when people come there, it's the lights, it's the show, it's the pyro, it's everything combined. It's an event. It's not just sitting there going, oh, wow, here's another show. And Brett runs out on that scaffold, that thrust, and he's shaking hands and smacking hands and bringing people up on stage. And Motley does Tommy does the drum kits. And I think when people come to those shows, it's like going to see, the circus never gets old.
Yeah.
Ever. I don't care whether you're 12 or 90, you still get a kick out of going to the circus. when you go to a Poison, Motley, Def Leppard, Joan Jett, all these shows like we were getting ready to put on, people know what they're getting, and it's still real music. It's not samples, it's not DAT tapes, it's not Memorex. It's still real music, and you know that because when a guitar's out of tune and they stop the show and say, "Hold on, we got to fix this," people want real live entertainment, and they want those Freudian slips to happen because they know it's real. Anybody can. If I use this, what's this vocal tuner stuff, whatever the hell it's called, they can make me sound like Pavarotti.
Yeah.
And I can't. The only place I sing and I sound good is in the bathroom, in the shower. I'm singing to myself, but there's programs out there now that could make me sound like the world's greatest singer, and in real life, I'm horrible. So
yeah, they have
that made me look pretty.
It's amazing with the technology and everything you have out there, and like you said, live shows, anything happens, man, because it just happens. But you know what? Everyone's having a good time. They're enjoying the music, and it can be easily, fixed right there if someone breaks a string. I'm sure. Have you ever had to run out an extra guitar, like if they change a guitar or something?
I have, luckily, because I'm not a guitar tech, so there's guitar techs, there's drum techs, there's people that specialize in that. Yeah. Now, I have, in fact, because I've been around Poison's music so long, there are times that when Brett will play or CC will play, or, even on Brett's solo band, if something happens, I'll hear it immediately. Yeah. Like, I know the sound of something that's gone wrong, but I don't fix it unless it's the last resort.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be something right there. I mean, just, I've seen, watch concerts and stuff, and on YouTube and DVDs and stuff, and where the guitar breaks, and then all of a sudden the guitar tech runs out and grabs another guitar and gives it to him. Actually, it was years ago. I was watching, it was in the mid-90s. Foo Fighters, David Grohl, when they first started out, they played this concert thing back on MTV back when they used to play music videos. And they were doing a show, and I think it was Pat Smear or Dave Grohl broke their string on the guitar, and the guitar tech ran out with another guitar, and at the last part of the concert they broke the string again. They just kept playing. They're like, fuck it, this is the end of the concert.
Exactly. Those things happen, and luckily with Poison and Kid Rock and everyone else that I've worked with, the guitar techs and the drum techs have been absolutely amazing. I mean, there's a knack when they take that job, and you really have to be able to improvise and think impulsively and get it done. Yeah. And I think when it came to something like that, as far as equipment or gear, it would take a lot of training for me to be able to do that. I don't have the patience to sit there and say, "Oh, well, what's wrong?" I like to fix the problem now, and I think that's why I'm good with the personal security and stuff, because if somebody gets up on stage, I can get them off stage quick without hurting them and without really going hands-on. There's a whole personality that I use when I'm on stage, and so the best way to say it is sometimes honey attracts more bees than vinegar. So
that's amazing. I would say right there with you being security, don't I get a little bit stressful there, because you got so many people right there, and you basically have to, don't you have to have your be aware of everything that's going on around you, because like you said, at some moment some crazy fan could get where they're not supposed to be, and you got to be right on them.
Until a few years ago, it doesn't get crazy, or it doesn't affect me the way that you would think, and a lot of that comes from being around the band for so long. The band's fans and the fans of Poison and Kid Rock and stuff, we can go into any city and I can tell you what city. I couldn't tell you through memory. I could tell you by looking at the crowd what city we're in, because a lot of the fans up front are loyal, diehard fans, and I can look and say, "Oh, there's Sherry, or there's Joe, or whoever." Like, "Oh yeah, we're in Cleveland, or we're in New York, or Baltimore, or whatever," And I've been around long enough to where I never unless things get really chaotic, I never tell people, get out of the way, do this, do that. I always ask them, hey guys, can I get you to do this? Can I get you to do that? There's a certain finesse in getting 100 people to move to the right and 100 people to move to the left and create this aisle. You know, there's too many people out there that think doing security and doing personal assistant work, you know, they think, oh, I can do that because I can fight. I'm like, well, you're already fired, because I don't want a thug, I want a diplomat. You know, so I'm not going to say I don't get nervous. I'm very aware, and I think this came from the Marine Corps. I'm very aware of my surroundings. I'm very aware of what's going on. But after a good friend of mine and Brett's and many other people, Dimebag Daryl, when that happened to him and he was killed, I became very alert for quite some time, and I was like, okay, things are going weird here. This has never happened before. And I did get a little bit apprehensive about letting people get near the stage for a while, because that just kind of hit me differently. Because as a security guard, you can talk to anybody who works as security in the music business or the movie business or whatever. That affected a lot of people, not only because Daryl was a great guy and he got killed, but you start thinking, okay, if I was at that show and that was my job and I worked for that band, how would I have handled it? And you want to say you're going to save the day, but in reality, you probably would have done the exact same thing. You know,
Yeah.
you either freeze or you go into action. And I don't think anybody was ever prepared for something like that, ever.
Yeah, that right there, damn. I discovered a Pantera in my high school when I was a senior in high school. I kind of got out of listening to alternative music, and I met a friend of mine named Todd. He said, you want to hear some music? He's like, listen to this. And I was like, what? He handed me a cassette, Slayer. I'm like, what the hell's Slayer?
Exactly.
I put it in. First song, Angel of Death. I was like, dude, I love this. And as time went on, he's like, I heard of Pantera, but I never really did listen to him. And then he gave me Far Beyond Driven. He's like, here, borrow this. And I was like, Far Beyond Driven. I'm looking at that album cover with the drill on the skull. I'm like, what the hell's this? And I loved it, man. I got hooked on Pantera there, and I became a really good fan. I even went back to like Cowboys from Hell, and at one time I think I was trying to chase down the stuff they did back in the early days. Because some magazine,
so
I think
you do know that they started as a glam band, right?
Yeah, that's what I was looking for, because someone pulled up an article, and I'm looking and I'm like, Dimebag? Vinny?
Yep.
What the hell? I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought that was cool, because I'm like, you know what, man? You got to start out somewhere. You know? And their music, I mean, I love Cemetery Gates. I love Phil Almanzo's vocal range on Cemetery Gates. I love that. But Dimebag's guitar playing, man, it was some crazy shit, but it was awesome just how he played. He created that own style, because
I'll tell you what's really weird is I didn't know how many guitar players he influenced until he passed away. And guitar players were saying, you know, I got my inspiration from Dime. I got this, I got that from Dime, and I do this because Dime did it. And I'm thinking, and then when they started playing and I started listening to their music again, I'm like, holy shit, it's been right there the whole time. That's why I like them so much. You know, there were just little things here and there, little ticks.
Yeah, that's a cool thing about them. Yeah, they inspired a lot of people there. I had a really good friend of mine at one point. He ended up getting the same exact model of Washburn and the pickups and everything guitar that Dime had, and oh my god, he hooked it up through his system there. He cranked it. It was almost like Marty McFly getting thrown across the room, Back to the Future. It sounded so good, man. It did. I think we about blew the speakers. One lick on that one note, it was like just it blew you in the back of the room. It just sounded so good, man. And there, when Pantera broke up, and then when Vinny and Dime went off to do Damage Plan, I love that album. I still have that album. I love that album. And then when Phil did Down, I love Down. I got 3 of their albums there, but that hit me. I was like, damn, man.
Yeah, it's quite an impact because, you know, working in the music business, you become very blessed and lucky. You meet a lot of people and you expect them to always be there. And, you know, I met some really, really good people, you know, Jamie Lane and Warren. And, some of my greatest friends have been in the music business, whether it be crew or touring personnel or artists or musicians themselves. And some of them have passed away, some of them have, you know, moved on, and it's just, but that hit me extra hard. I was like, wait a minute, this was not supposed to be. This was too much.
Right. And like you mentioned, Warrant, my cousin, it was around that time when I was a senior in high school. I never really listened to the 80s hard rock, like Poison, Warrant, Ratt, Quiet Riot. I never really listened to them. And then my cousin said this is stuff when I was in the late 80s, early 90s, when he was growing up about that time. He said, this is music I listened to. So he exposed it to me. And I got into listening to Poison there, Talk Dirty to Me. I love that, man. Just the guitar riff, CC's guitar on that. And Dawkins, Queensryche, Warrant, and what's another one there? There's so many.
LA Guns are, you know, they were really good friends of mine. Guns N' Roses.
Yeah, GNR.
I mean, that whole era and generation of music was. I mean, Sunset Strip was pushing so much music at the time that, I mean, whatever you wanted, it was there, and it was everything from, you know, Guns N' Roses to freaking Warrant, you know, A through Z, and it was amazing. And every one of those bands were successful in their own right, and some of them have outlasted the other, but their impact and their story will never go away.
Exactly, because their story there's now Netflix came out with that movie based off of Motley Crue's book, The Dirt. I can't watch it. Well, when it comes to Vince Neil, when it comes to his daughter, because
Skylar.
Yeah, because back in January 1st of 2016, me and my wife, we lost her son, and she lost her mom, my mother-in-law, on the same day. We lost her son, and we lost her mom and my mother-in-law. And I had people, friends that I know, say, "Hey, did you see it?" I said, "No." "Why come you can't watch it?" I said, I can't get to that part.
That's understood. That's understandable. I think a lot of people who don't know Vince and never knew the true Motley Crue story. You know, a lot of people like to criticize Vince about Razzle and how he died in a car wreck and all this other stuff. What they fail to realize is that, and this movie portrays it, and you've experienced it firsthand, the loss of a child is devastating. And Vince went through hell and high water. I mean, it was a living hell for him. And I've never discussed this with him. I don't see him enough, or I don't, you know, I know him, but it's something that even if we were the best of friends, I don't think it's something that I would talk to him about unless he brought it to my attention. But this movie brings to light the fact that he went through a living hell, and there was never a reasoning, or, you know, everybody, "Oh, why is Motley breaking up?" It's what you don't see behind the scenes that affects a musician or anybody in any career. You lose a child, and, you know, I have a friend of mine, a very dear friend of mine, who just lost her son. He was in his 20s, and you know, he was the light of her life, and she's just completely devastated. And I love her to death, and I love her family, but it's not one of those things you just jump into and talk about. You got to let nature take its course and let her heal before she talks about it. And honestly, I think Skylar's death, and for Vince and his wife, was very devastating, and I don't think they ever really got over it. How can one get over that?
Right.
You know? Right. I don't think the pain ever goes away.
Mm-hmm.
So, that I think that movie gave the rest of the world who don't know Vince the opportunity to see just a touch of what he went through, which firsthand. The psychological pain, the emotional pain, the physical pain, everything, and how you deal with it and how you cope with that pain. And I think that explained a little bit about what happened to Motley back then and why they're back today and why they're so successful still.
Yeah, they when in '97 there, when they announced that they got Vince back in the band, I was excited about that. I'm like, that is great, because I had a friend who had the Motley cassette when they had their the singer that replaced him. I forgot his name, who he was.
John Corabi. He's one of my best friends.
Okay, John, there.
That movie made me so upset because they kind of just very quickly went through John's era. And to this day, I still think that the album that they did with John was their best album ever.
Oh, when I first heard the first track, it's been years since I've listened to it, because back at that time, one of my friends, we were going on a car ride, and he threw, and I saw Motley Crue. I'm like, oh, cool, listen to Motley. And he's like, this ain't the Motley Crue, and he put it in, and then I was like, who the hell's that singing? And then he was telling me, I'm like, man, I was like, that does sound awesome. But didn't John and an ex-guitarist from Kiss got together at one point, created a band called Union?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool how they got together, and it was like, hey, let's form a band, and boom.
It was really good. But I've known John for, years. And I'm not just saying it because he's my friend. He's more like a brother. I love him to death. I've known him for quite some time, and I still, to this day, say that the album that he sang on was, and still is, their best album. And it made me very defensive and uptight, because I love John, and I know the impact that he had on the band, and they just kind of, all they show is him walking through the curtain and people holding signs saying, bring Vince back, and I'm like, what an asshole. John's phenomenal.
Yeah, that would. I could not imagine how hard that would be, because I know that movie that Mark Wahlberg did years ago, Rockstar, when he replaced the singer, and they kind of like showed some stuff where like they didn't accept him, the fans didn't and stuff. I could not imagine that you're going out there to perform in front of all these people and they're throwing that in your face there. I couldn't imagine that for him, man.
John's he is a consummate pro. I guarantee you it didn't bother him. Yeah. He looked at it as a blessing. He looked at it as, this may or may not last forever, but John's mind is always working, and I guarantee you, he was a pro about it.
Yeah, it's been forever since I heard that album there, but I know like the first track, when I heard the guitars and stuff, and just him singing, I'm like, dude, this. It's Motley Crue playing, but that's not Vince singing, but this sounds pretty badass, man. And yeah, it's different. It's almost like Red Hot Chili Peppers when they got Dave Navarro. They became more of a rock album, but that's Dave's playing because of Jane's Addiction, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. Dave Navarro, man, he was pretty cool. I mean, I liked. Back during that time, back in the late 90s, me and my cousin and her boyfriend, we formed a little punk band, and we didn't make it that far. We didn't get out of the garage.
There's nothing wrong with that. You know what you know.
Yeah, we were 18.
There's some bands out there that never make it out of the garage or a warehouse or whatever. Yeah. But the greatest thing is they did what they loved, and they went for it, and they had a good time doing it. That doesn't make you any less or more of a person. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we were all, we were at that, 17, 18 years old. It's like, yeah, we're going to go on tour. We're going to see places we've never seen.
Everybody does that.
Yeah. And then
I would sit in my house as a teenager, and before my teens, and I'd listen to Kiss, and I'd listen to all these records. Jesus, now I'm showing how old I really am. And I'd sit there and think, that's going to be me one day. And I'd take a flashlight and put it up in the corner, and it would be my spotlight. And I'm like, this is cool. I'm a fucking rock star, blah, blah. And if you would have told me back then that I'd be working for some of those same rock stars, I would have been kicking you in the ass. But life has a funny way of working out.
I'm gonna tell you my first musical influences, and then I'll ask you the same thing.
Sure.
But 5 years old, Sesame Street, MTV, because of older brother. Okay, my older brother at the time, 84, 85. I got exposed to watching David Lee Roth jumping on stage. Jump.
Okay.
I got on the couch and I thought I could do the same thing until my mom whipped me when I came down because you're tearing up the couch. Then Billy Idol, Dancing with Myself. I wanted to spike my hair like Billy Idol, man. I wanted to do that stuff. And then I went to my brother's room one day when he was gone, and I found a cassette tape. What is Beastie Boys? Licensed to Ill.
There you go. There you go.
I was listening to Beastie Boys. I cranked his stereo. He was 2 houses over at his friend's house. He heard his stereo blasting, and he came running back in, and I'm jumping up and down in his bed singing Fight For Your Right. He kicked me out. He'd take off. I go back in there and listen to it again. Listen to everything, off that cassette there, man. What was some of your favorite or early music influence?
I think the first band that I ever got really dialed in with and really liked was Kiss.
Mm-hmm.
76, 77 era. And then from there it went on to, Kiss. I remember listening to like Billy Squier and Joan Jett, and stuff like that. But I guess 78, 79 is when they started. I loved Duran Duran. Loved them. Still love them. It was one of my favorite bands ever. But then after that comes Run DMC, Fat Boys, Beastie Boys, Kool Moe Dee. I went out to Hollywood thinking I was going to be a breakdancer. Me. Brett tells the story on the show that we did, Rock of Love. I wanted to be a breakdancer, and I wanted to be a DJ. And as a matter of fact, in high school, myself and I called him my brother, Scott Lomboy, we would DJ parties. And this is before karaoke and anything. We'd be up there with mics, and I'd be doing the Beastie Boys and Run DMC and LL Cool J, and we'd be singing it while he was really scratching, and he was, we had spotlights, we had light shows. This is in high school in like the 80s. And from then, I don't know what happened. I think 91-ish, was it? I don't remember. 90, 91, I heard NWA, because I was stationed out in California. And it was like 89. I was spending a lot of time in California in 91 and 92.
Right.
Because I was stationed in Pendleton to go up on the weekends. And that's when I started to get into the rock scene, because I'd see all these. I saw Sunset Strip, and I went to Gazzari's, and I got to experience all that. And I was like, holy shit, this is cool. And then, it went from that to, of course, Ratt and Iron Maiden and all those bands. But I think my biggest influence in any kind of music was the Crush Groove era. I mean, it was Run DMC, the Beastie Boys, LL Cool J. I had so much fun with that, and it was really cool because when I was working with Saliva, we got to go to Island Def Jam's headquarters in New York City. So I'm sitting there thinking, holy shit, this is where it all began. This is where Beastie Boys got signed, and they get in the elevator after they signed their contract, and it's LL Cool J in the damn elevator. He's like, congratulations, fellas, and I'm going, oh shit, this is cool. So it was pretty cool.
That's amazing, man. That is Run DMC. I loved Run DMC, Public Enemy, NWA. Yeah, when I was 12 years old when I first NWA. Boys in the Hood.
Yep.
Had a friend of mine who had that, and he had the big boom box, and we'd ride. You'd ride up and down the street in the bike. and he'd blast it, and I'm like, what is this stuff? And we just,
My phone. I will show you a picture. Hold on, I gotta find my phone. I'll
Okay.
show you a picture. Nobody has seen these pictures, so this is going to be quite humorous. Where the hell did I put? Hold on a second. Hell. Oh. I don't know where in the hell it's at.
You sound like me, John.
Oh, Jesus, it's right in front of me. Okay.
You sound like me. I've done that before. I had my phone in my pocket, and I grabbed my wife's phone. I'm like, I can't find my phone, and I dial it, and all of a sudden I look down and I'm ringing, and she's like, really?
Oh, yeah. Let me get to this. You talk about the boom box and everything. I want to show you a couple pictures. Like, Brett makes fun of me. He calls me the fifth quarter kid, and I'll tell you why. Because when I was like 12 and 13 years old, no, I was younger than that, like 10 to 12, 10 to 9 to, or 11 to 12, I wasn't allowed to play in the football game because I was too big in grade school.
Yeah.
So they had to have a fifth quarter, which was like everybody just playing kill the man, you know. And I said that I was going to sue whoever did Napoleon Dynamite because I swear to God they stole my image. I'll show you in a, where is it? Hold on.
While you're looking for it there, I'll just say Napoleon Dynamite. I thought that movie was just crazy. It was fun. I liked Uncle Rico, man. He reminded me. He actually did remind you of that uncle. That
creepy. Oh yeah. Oh, I think everybody's had that uncle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. My favorite part is Rex Kwon-Do. I think it was the Taekwondo. I love that. Yeah, that movie was something crazy there, man. When it came out at that time, it did.
It is absolutely insane, and it was so genius. It's funny that you mention it because Brett and I were just watching it a few weeks ago. Oh, here we go. Now you tell me that they didn't steal my image for Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh my! Really?
Hey, at 12 years old.
Oh, no way.
And then I'll show you the old breakdancing days. This is when I was bound and determined to go into breakdancing, and I said, maybe if I can find her.
Yeah, I thought breakdancing when I first seen it when I was a kid. I thought it was like one of the most amazing things I ever seen because I didn't know the human body could do stuff like that there.
Oh, I know.
With the moving and stuff and everything. I was like, I tried it, but it didn't work out too well for me.
I was a big oaf. You know what I mean? I tried it, but I never said I was good at it. I just said I tried it.
Mm-hmm. I liked the movie White Chicks when the Wayans brothers were having that dance off with the two girls and they're pulling out the break dancing. I love that part in that movie. There.
Oh yeah, here you go. Now see if you can pick out me in this picture. This is the breakdance crew.
Let's see. Are you in the back there with the hat?
Without the hat, the big goofy. Yeah, I was behind the kid with that. The big goofy looking Napoleon Dynamite looking.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, I see it.
Crew, though. I mean, we're walking around with that, and we got this on our shoulders. I'm like, no wonder we never got dates. There you go. You look at the beatbox.
Oh yeah, there you go. The
It's
beatbox.
Like, you can't buy this shit. It's like, all right.
The first time I was exposed to AC/DC, I was.
Oh, great band.
Yeah, yes, my favorite band to this day, my favorite classic rock band. When I was with my parents and we stopped in Georgia going up to Tennessee, and I was at my uncle's house there. We stayed the night there. Next morning we got up and went to Tennessee. While we were there that day after we came in from Daytona there, and we were sitting there, and I was out on my uncle's front lawn there, and I was with my cousin. all of a sudden we've seen this dude walking down the street with a boombox, military pants, combat boots, AC/DC shirt cut off, sunglasses, hat backwards, and he hits play, and the first song comes on was Money Talks, and I'm like, Who is that? Exactly. And he just walking down the road like nothing, man, and he sees us and he's all keeps walking, and I'm like, I was like 10 years old. I'm like, what did I just hear? What is that noise? But it was good, man. It was it was definitely good, man. One of my favorite bands there. They had so many great songs and stuff, and I just I thought it was pretty neat because I did hear the stuff that Axl Rose sang with them when he filled in, man. He sounded like Bon Scott, did he not? I don't know if you heard it.
No, I never heard it. I've never heard it.
No, really?
Oh, I didn't. And it wasn't by choice. It wasn't. There was a time in my life when I just completely disassociated myself from music. And it was really, that was probably, when was that? Like 5 years ago? 6 years ago?
I think so, yeah.
From 2010 to 2019, 2018, I didn't really associate with music because I got married, and in 2010 I went through a very bad depression. I actually had a pistol in my mouth. I was ready to, I had to quit drinking and everything because I let I let the celebrity status from that TV show and everything take control of me, and I started drinking and started partying and started doing everything. Like I said, there were, I got to be the fifth Beatle in some bands, and it never went away. And I had to learn the hard way that I was either going to die or I was going to quit drinking and quit smoking and quit partying and quit doing all that shit and learn to live again. And that's what I did. I disappeared, went to Hawaii for a few years, and didn't really connect with anyone.
Wow. One point in my life, I was dating a girl, and we were together for like 2 years. Valentine's Day, this is in 2007, Valentine's Day. I think I'm going to pop the question to her. I go and pop the question, or about to. She don't want to be with me no more. She wants to break up. She met another guy, and she moved to Kentucky. I was living in Tennessee at the time.
Right.
It felt like someone took my heart and just ripped it out of me. And I've never told anyone about this except my wife, that it hurt me so bad. Even when I had a rebound girlfriend for about 3 months, and that was hell. At the end of it was. And then when I was alone again there was nights where I've never said anything on my show or anything about this, but there was nights where I would sit there on the couch and just kill a bottle of liquor, and I had a knife with me, and I'm like, this just I just wanted to just say, just fuck it,
I completely get it, because if it wasn't for my ex-wife, it was the weirdest thing. It was May 28th of 2010. I stuck a pistol in my mouth and I said, okay, my dad had just died in 2009, which sent me over the edge, and I would start the day with a fifth of Jack or Jim Beam. That's how I started the day, because it kept me from shaking. So throughout the day, I would drink anywhere from 1 to 2 half gallons of Jim Beam, not to mention all the beer that I would be drinking. And people, my closest friends, John Karabi, some people in Nashville, I was living in Nashville, some of my closest friends were telling me, you need to take a look at yourself and figure this out. And it didn't really hit me until Brett, right in 2009, I think it was, 2009, beginning of 2010. Brett and I had picked him up from his jet. He flew into, I don't know where he flew into. We were going to Mississippi, and I picked him up. We had about a 45-minute ride, and he told me, he said, look, and it's in this. It's in his book. Oh shit! It's in his book. I wrote a letter, and it was. Sorry, that just happened to be there. I've been reading it. Um, he said, "Look," he goes, "you're always going to have a job in the music business. I love you like a brother." He goes, "But I'm not going to sit here and watch you die." He goes, "You got to get this shit under control. So, let me know when you get yourself reeled back in, and we'll do everything." Didn't fire me, didn't do anything. It was just one of those wake up moments.
Yeah.
And I quit drinking for the rest of that tour. Unfortunately, I can't say that it lasted. But once the tour was over, I went back to drinking again, and I finally quit in the end of 2010. So it was just one of those things where it had taken control, and I dug myself into such a hole that I didn't see any way out other than shooting myself. And I said, "All right, Dad," I said, "you got 24 hours to show me why I'm here, or I'm done. I'm coming." And the next day, I met my ex-wife now, and I was like, "Ah!" so at least she served that purpose, because our marriage wasn't worth a shit. But she served. She saved me, and a lot of good things came out of it. That not with her, but because of her, I guess.
Yeah. You don't expect that, and sometimes it comes.
Sure didn't expect it.
Yeah, you don't expect it there. When drinking and having a knife and wanting to just slice myself open.
Sure.
At that time, I think it was MySpace.
Yeah.
So I got on MySpace, and I looked at my ex, and her boyfriend that was with her at the time. I forgot the post though, but in it, the detail what he talked about was he mentioned me, but not directly.
Sure.
And so I sat there and I read that, and it is like basically he was saying, it's like, yeah, I got a good woman. Too bad, whoever had her last.
Yeah.
So I just slammed my hands down on the desk there, and I was just like stark raving mad. And then I'm like, you know what? That's it. So I got up, got rid of the bottle, hid the knives, and I'm like, what am I going to do with myself? And I was so mad, and I had a yoga mat. So I sit there, started working out, and then I got into working out. I started listening to a lot of music to help me through that time. Yep. I remember listening to about anything, but was it As I Lay Dying? That helped me.
Oh, yeah.
That helped me through it, man. I put them on earphones. I went out and bought a weight bench, and I started lifting, and I started working out and stuff, and I started feeling really good of myself. I'd wake up in the morning, I say, you know what? I want to work out. So I'd go work out and do a workout routine. And
Isn't it amazing? It's amazing how one bad thing happens and so many good comes. It's if my ex-wife hadn't left me, I would probably not be back in music. I would not be working for Brett, which I am now. I would not be living life to the fullest. I'll just put it that way, because I suppressed so much of who I am to try to make her happy that it took about a year. But once it finally wore off, it's funny because I read a comment somewhere. It's like, even the most beautiful woman in the world is someone else's headache. And I'm like, it hit me. I was like, yeah, I don't have that headache no more. So Sean has been Sean Casey was a very big help in putting that era behind me. And once it was gone, it was almost like I was free again. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
even in your worst times, some good comes out of it.
Right. That's one thing I want to ask you, since you mentioned TV show Rock of Love there. Now, before that was like pitched and how that came about, you were friends with Brett at the time. Were you around when the idea got pitched to him for Rock of Love?
I was.
What was your take on that?
Well, here's how it went. Brett had been in negotiations with VH1 for quite some time on that show and some other ideas, and when it finally came down to the rubber meeting the road, and they said, okay, we're going to do this, he stipulated, I'm not doing this without John. I want John to be part of this. And they were like, well, we can get somebody, but he's like, no, because you don't understand the chemistry between John and I. Because I was his tour manager on his solo career and his personal assistant. And we had really built a bond very closely. And we worked great together, and I loved everything about what I was doing. And so he made it very clear to them that no matter what he did, I was going to be involved. And at first I was like, okay, this is going to be cool. Maybe I'll get a little bit of celebrity out of it, whatever. Never in my damn life did I or Brett or anyone expect that this would be the #1 show still today that VH1 has ever produced. I'm like, I can tell when they're starting to rerun it again, or it's running on other, Hulu or Netflix or any of these other things, because people come up and they start looking still, and they're like, "Are you?" And I'm like, "Oh God, it must be on." Well, I love it. We got a standing joke in Brett's camp that I tried to play this shy role for a long time. It's like, "Are you who me? Who me? Look at me. Is that me?" But the simple fact of the matter is I was proud to do it. I was happy to do it, and a lot of really cool things happened because of it. One of the bad things was the drinking and the partying and letting your ego come before your common sense. And when that happens, you got to step back for a while and say, hey, what's important? And luckily I got through that, and I'm sober today, and I can still enjoy the success of the show and everything that Brett created with VH1, and I got to be a part of it. And now I can really sit back and enjoy it without spending my life, half in the bag.
Yeah, that's amazing there. I've never really sat down, because when it came out at the time, I think like reality TV was really starting to kick up and stuff, and I was really never a fan of the reality TV. But what's funny nowadays, I'll catch myself coming upon something that was big around that time there, and I sit there and watch it, and I'm like, you know what? I was like, this is some crazy shit, but it's good.
Exactly. It's once again, it's standing the test of time. It's now there's a whole new generation out there that they're in their teens and stuff, and they're like, oh my God, I saw you on Rock of Love. I'm like, what in the hell are you doing watching that show? I'm glad they are, you know what I mean? Because it's kept Brett in the forefront of entertainment today, which keeps me working, you know what I mean? And Brett's constantly going, and so is Ricky. And I don't really know, I'm not going to say I don't know much about them, but I don't interact with Cece and Bobby as much as I do Brett and Ricky. But I know that those two are constantly brainstorming, working, getting things going. When they're down and they're not torn, they're off to the next venture. And they both are the same way. They do it to the best of their ability, and they make it a success. It's not like they just sit back and say, I hope this works. They do whatever it takes to make it work.
Right. So that's amazing right there. I love that.
And I'm starting to get Brett a little bit. I'm starting to smarten him up a little bit to the wrestling world.
Yeah. I was wanting to ask you that. How the heck did you get Bret Michaels sit down and watch FGW? How the heck did you pull that off, man?
Because I'm part of it. I mean, that's our relationship. Brett always told me, he said, then this was not a couple years ago, but years ago. I wanted to get back into wrestling around 2009, 2008. I really had a good in to get back into wrestling and to make it work. And Brett didn't want to lose me, because we had built that camaraderie. It was working. But he also sat back and told me, hey, if that's what you want to do, I will support you fully. I will do whatever I have to do to make it successful for you. And he's always been supportive. I mean, I can't think of anybody else that I've worked with in this music business that has been that supportive. But when I took the time off, I started getting back into wrestling with Sean and Cody and everyone. And he knew it. I told him, I said, look, this is what I'm doing. And, So when I've been out in Arizona working with him because we had the tour coming up and he had his autobiography coming out. So we've been working a lot on that, and we were working on the tour until we found out that Live Nation had postponed it to 2021. So we've been doing a lot, and just one day I was like, hey, you know what? Here, this is what I was doing in wrestling. Watch me chokeslam this guy, and watch Sean, and he loves Sean. So it's like I was showing him some highlights, and then we sat down. He started watching it, and then he was doing greetings one day and doing some media stuff. And I said, while we're at it, I said, can you give a little shout out to the wrestling to FGW? He's like, absolutely, whatever. So he gives him a shout out, and they just sent him a video thanking him for the shout out and giving him an idea as to what he did for them and give him a little inspiration and everything, and he loved it, absolutely loved it. So he's slowly but surely he's not helping me, he's helping them. But I want to smarten him up, and like we talked about with AEW, if anything like that would ever happen, I'd like to incorporate him some way and say, hey, you know what, do a run-in or bring us into the ring or whatever. You know how Tyson did in WrestleMania and stuff like that. Because we have been the best of friends for so long. And it's very hard to say that, because it's hard to say that you are really good friends or family with the people that are your employers. And it took me a long time to balance that line, because while he is my employer, he's still someone, and Ricky is still someone that I go to for advice, I go to just to shoot the shit with, or I'll go to as a professional. I mean, when you learn how to balance that, and you can not let the business affect you personally, you've really created a chemistry, and it works perfectly.
I love it, man. I love you're sincere, man. You're a great guy. You are. I appreciate and enjoy everything that I've seen you do on FGW there, and just you being part of the 5 Most Wanted, and just being there part of FGW, and the ups and downs, being on the road with friendships with bands and everything and stuff. It's amazing, man. It is amazing what you've been through, and it's what
I like to tell people that I've had more jobs than Forrest Gump. I've been very lucky, you know what I mean, and like I said, I think Dwayne The Rock said it best: when one door closes, go to the next one and kick that son of a bitch down and go through it and do everything that you can to make it successful. And that's what I've done. There's been some doors that have slammed in my face, but I'll kick that son of a bitch wide open and I'll go through it. And if they either accept it or they don't, you know what I mean? So I make the best of every opportunity, and I'm not saying they've all been great they've all been great decisions, but I give everything, my heart and soul, 100%. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, at least I did it. You know what I mean? So I don't want to die. I don't want to die and say what if. Right. No regrets. No regrets. When the good Lord gets this body back, it's going to be broken, and the fuel tank will be empty. That's amazing, man. Good choice of words. I love it, man. And what do you got planned here? I know everything is kind of slowing backing up. I mean, actually, it is kind of slowing backing up because of everything that's going on, because things were slowly opening up. But absolutely. What do you have planned here? What do you have coming up? Well, obviously, I'm still working with Ratt. Wrestling has been put on hold because of this coronavirus and everything else. A lot of that is going to depend on what the CDC and what the state of Ohio and the rest of the world decides on. If they're, I think what they do is they misconstrue wrestling as full combat UFC sports, and yes, there's injuries. Yes, there's a lot of impacts, but it's not like the UFC where you're causing direct injury. And I think they need to be smart enough to that. But I'm going to continue to work with Brett, and I'm going to go back out to Arizona at the end of next week. And, I'm still going to do the personal assistant work. And find out right now where we sit as far as next year. If we're going to take some time off, and if we do, I'll go back into wrestling right away. If not, I'll have to slowly graduate back into it, get back in the gym, and kind of prep my body a little bit, because at my age, I have to be really careful. But, wrestling has become my medicine. It's the greatest thing, because I've had a series of heart attacks and some other stuff happen, and the doctors were just baffled that I went back into wrestling at all. And it actually created a lot of controversy in the cardiology department, because one doctor was fighting with the other, and they're like, it's working. I mean, they were talking about a heart transplant 3 years ago, and now they're talking about just keep doing what you're doing because it's working. So I caused a lot of controversy, and like I said, I'm going to make the best of whatever hand is thrown at me. But I think for now, I'm going to continue to work with Brett and hope that within the next 4, 5, 6 months, they bring wrestling back. In the meantime, I'm going to give Brett my 100% in the anticipation of next year's tour, and then I'll come back to wrestling, and we'll do that until it's tour time next year.
Amazing, man. Amazing.
Hopefully it involves some AEW work, but we'll see about that.
That would be great, man. I definitely would mark out over that. Inner Circle versus 5 Most Wanted, man.
I love it.
That would be great, man. I can see you and Jake Hager going at each other. I can see Cody and Jericho going at each other. I can see Shauna taking on Sammy Guevara.
Yes. Now you're talking my language.
I love it, and I do want to thank you for taking time out and coming on here and talking with me. I had a blast talking with you. And again, FGW, Wednesday nights, 7 p.m.
What up, baby? Throw it down.
Yes. 5 Most Wanted. Throw it up. Throw it down. And before we head out of here, Big John, where can people find you on social media at?
Obviously at FGW on Facebook. There's FGW every Wednesday nights, FGW Shockwave, which is a direct connection to the Future Great Wrestling here in Cincinnati, Ohio. But you can find me on Facebook, simply John Murray, Murray, Instagram, Big John 333, and I look forward to meeting everyone. I mean, send me a friend request. I'm on open book. You have questions that weren't covered on here, ask me, and we'll continue to create this legacy, and hopefully it'll be a positive one.
Nice. And one thing I wanted to mention is that I want to say thank you for your service.
Hoorah! Thank you, brother. Thank you.
Because I want to mention that before I forget, because I go pretty much all over the place and stuff. But I had uncles that served in the military, and I wanted to say thank you for your service to our country.
Thank you. It was an absolute honor to do that. So some of the best times of my life were with my boys and my unit.
Nice. And before I do leave, I do want to mention this here. Podcasting Network, your top source for independent podcasting. Head over to podcasting.net for great content and great shows over on the website. Hit them up on Facebook, Podcasting Network. Give them a thumbs up and a follow. Send them a tweet over on Twitter at PodcastingNet. Subscribe to their YouTube channel for video podcast over on Podcasting Network and on Twitch, Podcast City Network. You want more Everett Lee? Then hit me up on Facebook. Give me a thumbs up and a follow, Everett Lee Show. Twitter at the Everett _Lee. Instagram, Everett Lee Show. And audio portions of this podcast and previously released podcast, head over to YouTube, the Everett Lee Show, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, Podbean, and iHeartRadio. When I need a logo or graphic design done, I use 3 Count Design. 3 Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography, and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. For more information, head over to facebook.com/3countdesign. That is facebook.com/3countdesign. When I want to kick back a few cold ones with my friends, I head over to City Limits Taproom. City Limits Taproom has a wide selection of TVs to watch your favorite sports, indoor and outdoor seating, and they are pet friendly. City Limits Tap Room also has food made fresh to order, and the grilled cheese is excellent. I recommend the grilled cheese and the apple pie cider with fries on the side. You can't go wrong with that, baby. For more information for upcoming events, head over to facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room. Thank you, Big John Murray, for coming on the Everett Lee Show, and that is it for the Everett Lee Show. Everett Lee signing off. Everyone have a good night and a good week and a good day, and I'll see you again next time for another episode of the Everett Lee Show. Peace.